Hey guys, this is Gamikawa. Welcome to another Pokemon TCG discussion video. It is rotation time. We're at the end of the 2008 format, and there's a bunch of stuff which is going away. We're rotating all of the Gen 3 sets into Diamond Pearl on, so there are 4 sets and 2 pop kits to get rid of. There's some decent stuff to take note of. This is the end of the Delta Species cards. Hopefully for Generation 9, with the Terrestrial stuff being in play, we'll get some more, especially EXs. We'll end up getting some more that are Delta Species, but for now, this is the final time you will see a funky Lightning and Metal type Pidgeot, and it is very sad. But also, passing of the torch sort of thing. I don't know, it's kind of neat. So we want to see just the sets as a whole. We've got Holon Phantoms over here, that's, all the shiny cardboard that we're getting rid of over here. Pop Series, which one is this, 4? Yeah, it's 4, 4 and 5 are the ones that are going. Some interesting stuff with it in here as well. We have Crystal Guardians over here. A lot of these Pokemon are kind of outdated at this point, so there is not going to be quite as many as normal to discuss, but there's still a fair few. Dragon Frontiers over here as well. The worst scan quality ever for these things. Again, just the yellowed cards are so horrendous. But whatever, it is what it is. And then we have Power Keepers as the final set here, the Gen 3 reprint set, alongside Pop Series 5 as well. One card I have not mentioned in any of these is the Delta Rainbow Energy, because I didn't really see the point. If Delta Species is going, we're not going to miss this card anyway, so there is that. There are 4 cards which will be coming back during the next rotation. All of these, except Memory Berry, I believe, come back in Stormfront, the second set. So Cyclone and Warp Energies alongside Great Ball come back at that point. Memory Berry, I think, is the set afterwards, or the last set of the round. I actually don't remember, but it's one of the last 2. So we won't need to worry too much about these. Cyclone and Warp going for one set is a little bit awkward, but yeah, we're fine on stuff this way at the moment. So here is my, what is this? There's about 66 cards on this one, so we'll shotgun through as many of them as we can. A fair few EXs surprisingly made it onto here as well, even though they're not really that relevant at the moment. Their effects are still kind of cool, so, it's somewhat worth noting. So let's just go through things in order. Pidgeot alongside the Holon Energies is going away here. This Pidgeot, if it has a Holon Energy on it, is a blanket power negation for all stuff. There's a couple of ways that we're losing to block Pokemon Pokepowers and stuff at this point, and this is one of the prominent ones. You don't normally see it too much at this point because it is a stage 2 and it needs a special energy attached to it, so it's not the easiest of things to set up, but this would just completely shut down the deck that's reliant on Claydol as your only draw option, or your major draw option, so it's still relevant. Nidoqueen, and I think there's a Delta Meganium that I didn't put in here that does a similar sort of thing. Once during your turn, when you just get to search for any Pokemon card out of your deck, the Meganium searches when you evolve, but it searches 3 of them. It's kind of neat. Nidoqueen is the more relevant one though, because the Nidoqueens are actually good, whereas MT Meganium is very bad, so nobody would play that anyway. But Nidoqueen is a very strong card. It's still good even at the moment. Vengeance is also quite nice as well, doing effectively 90 damage for any free energy is solid. It's weak to Gardevoir, so that's why you don't see it very often, but it would still see play in the next format if we had it. I'm putting the Igglybuff in here just because we did tinker with Darkrai, Weavile, Wigglytuff, and that deck kind of dies because of the loss of Sydney Stadium down here as well, but this gives your Wigglytuff line 0 retreat if you just have one of these out, and you do want to play Igglybuff in a Wigglytuff deck because it does more damage if it's evolved from it, so it's kind of fine. Dugtrio will get a replacement in Manectric later on, but this is a bench damage prevention thing. There's a lot of spread going around at the moment, and most of it is not via damage counters, like Bronzong is the one exception, so having something like this is definitely relevant right now, and I've seen it teched into decks. Sammy's Garchomp deck played it for sure. Magneton is a pretty big loss because the Magnezones are going to get exceptionally good later on. The one we have at the moment is already really good, and this definitely fuels that deck quite a lot, gives you more energy back. Leafeon Magnus Zone is really good at the moment actually, and it uses this quite heavily, so yeah, pretty big loss on that one. Electabuzz, because Electivire is a pretty reasonable deck. Power of Evolution is quite nice, being able to just draw a card from the bottom of the deck. You know, we have Claydol, but it's still nice to have this on in Engine, right? Taurus is pretty good because it can discard a Stadium card that's in play. Pachirisu does the Call for Family bit better, but this has utility beyond, you know, the start of the game, so that's pretty good. Jolteon Star lets you put a damage counter on both active Pokemon. We haven't seen this very often, and it does take up a bench space, which is awkward nowadays, but it is exceptionally good. We just haven't really put it in the decks, I suppose. But no, there's a few decks I would play this in. You just need, if you want to attack with it, it's not amazing, but there's 10 extra damage utility is just stupidly good, right? We'll get Crobat to replace this though, so it's fine. Crobat G. Umbreon Star, again, haven't really used, but is extremely good in its own right as well. When you just bench it, you get to choose a card from your opponent's hand without looking and discard it, which is just kind of savage, to be honest. I think the main reason I haven't seen more use out of these is because it's hard to pick them up off the bench again, so yeah, it gets a bit awkward. Omastar, there is the power-based one in Majestic Dawn, which will sort of act as a replacement here, but pull down being an attack is sometimes better because it's harder to lock, right? And yeah, this devolves all of the opponent's Pokemon, so if you've been doing good spread damage with Empoleons and the like, you get to just devolve everything, and it's really annoying. Dragonite, more of a legacy thing at this point. It's not very good at the moment, but Deafen, I mean, there's going to be a lot of trainer cards that it will hit, and this also hits Stadium cards as well because it's a Gen 3 trainer lock, so that can be pretty helpful too. So yeah, worth noting just because of its legacy more than anything. Mewstar, again, the star cards just didn't see a ton of use from a lot of people, but I've played this in a few decks. I played it in Ho-Oh, and yeah, copying any one of the opponent's attacks if you can pay for it is quite nice. It got a bit more awkward without Rainbow Energy, I suppose, but Rainbow Energy comes back next format, so it would have been pretty good. Togetic itself is not very good, but it's 0 retreat, so if you are playing Togekiss, this was the best Togetic to use because of that. The new one has 70 HP, but it's also 1 retreat and just really bad, so whatever. Sceptile is a lose at the moment thing. I believe Stormfront gives us a better version of this with Energy Trans on it as well, and it only has 1 energy retreat and it's got better attacks, but it's still an immediate loss to the Torterra archetype, potentially, so it's fine. Blaziken, I don't even know why I've kept this in, to be honest. We've got Typhlosion that replaces this, and it's not seeing any play because it's not very good. The Blaziken that we have in Great Encounters wasn't strong enough in the end to prop the deck up, but Firestarter is still a good power, so whatever, right? Swampert EX is a good energy accelerator with discarding energy and then bringing the stuff back with it. Ultra Pump is also quite a good attack, but we're going to see this 20 damage less, but we're going to see this on Kingdra in the next set, and yeah, I want to play that. So yeah, this is more because it just accelerates any type of energy, which is something that nothing else in the format can actually do from the discard. So there's that. Shiftry, arguably you can do this better with Aerodactyl now, because it's not a stage 2, it's not an EX, but it is a fossil that doesn't play with the other fossil stuff. So this is still a bit of a loss. You could also use this with Darkrai level X, and your Blade Arms and stuff can actually start doing like 100 damage or something, so it's still worth noting. Both Gardevoir are noteworthy here as well. Psyshadow has been a really good accelerant. We saw this in my Cresselia Galley Darkrai, not Darkrai, Cresselia Galley Gardevoir deck in the previous round. And Matt did mention Imprison could be really good in there. I kind of see it. Like, it just being able to permanently shut down the Claydol on the bench or something is really good. This would lose a lot of power in the next set with Uxie being available, because setup can't be stopped by this sort of thing. So it's hit and miss as to whether it would actually be good or not. 2 prizes is a lot to give up, and against enemy Gardevoir decks and such, it's not very strong. But yeah, it is really nice to be able to permanently shut down stuff, so I could still see it. Delcatty, it's still noteworthy that Infernape is not a terrible deck, and sometimes you just want stuff in the discard that way. Rotom can accelerate out the discard after all, so yeah, Claydol generally does this job better, but Claydol doesn't let you go above 6 cards in hand, whereas this does, so you can use this even after doing a big draw support or something. And it also has an EX, which is noteworthy because of upstream. Searching for every energy card in your discard pile and putting them all back into the deck is pretty respectable. And if the opponent does try and get a giant hand, like with Claydol in the format, this isn't quite as big a thing anymore, but with people, if you do try and get a big hand size going, Constrain can be quite good to force them back down, so there is that. Sableye pops up here and there. Not every deck is going to be able to use this sort of thing, but there are some times where discarding the top card of your deck is actually relevant, and seeing what the card is before you play like a shuffle draw support or something, or a search supporter, is respectable. So yeah, it's fine. Also, Disable is really annoying against setup cards at the start of the game, so it's a pretty good lead too, so not too bad. Meanwhile, searching for a trainer in Gen 3 means you can get any type of trainer card, trainer supporter, or stadium, so that's the kind of thing we can't do now, so Mawile gets plus points just for that. Also works with some of the tool card stuff as well that will be coming out. You could search energy gain with this in the SP format, and that would be fine. Probably too slow, but still fine. Flygon EX, Flygon is still going to get a decent bit of love in the next generation, or the next rotation I should say. Sand damage is pretty respectable in its own right, lets you damage all of the opponent's bench basics, so if they are struggling to evolve you can get some good chip damage going, and Psychic Pulse is just a good amount of damage. It doesn't have any weaknesses as well, so it usually takes at least one hit. It's got a lot of HP to do that with, and yeah, 80 damage is respectable. Damaging all of the opponent's already damaged stuff is good. You could use this with Bronzong as a good example, so definitely worth noting. Cordon is like a stage 1 Dusknoir, but it does give up 2 prizes and it doesn't shuffle the cards back into the deck, so it's a bit more limited, but it's also a stage 1 Dusknoir, and some decks would like that, so it's worth noting. Milotic, the Delta one lets you take the opponent's supporter cards out of their hand. Well, it doesn't discard them or anything, but it uses their effects, so it encourages the opponent to get rid of all of their supporters and whatnot. This is competing again for Claydol space, like most of these things are, but there's still a lot you can do with it, and it is still a very strong card, so there is that. Holon's cast form is probably one of the big ones. We're losing all of our double rainbow effects or multi-rainbow stuff in this rotation, and Holon's cast form is one of the better ones for sure. This works exceptionally well in Leafeon decks, as do all of them, but this works really well for it because you can double attach, bounce the energy back, and then energy forcing the new thing on, so really good. Shuppet is here because it has Ascension. The getting to just evolve into a Banette from deck instantly is really good, so it's noteworthy because Banette's actually pretty good as a card as well. Dusclops is a hit to Dusknoir, but maybe not quite so much at this point because our good special energy are going as well, like the non-dark, non-metal ones. Most of the ones we would play are already rotating too, so maybe it's not so bad, but Curse Glare is still really, really strong. Yeah, it's exceptionally annoying, to be honest, so there's that. Absol EX, unfortunately, is going away. I really, really like this card. I may well play some sort of spread archetype this round just to use this one more time. Cursed Eyes is an amazing effect. Luckily, we get to see this in the future, but it's not for quite a long time, so yeah, bit of a shame, but Cursed Eyes moving damage around is great. Latias and Latios Delta, the only reason these aren't seeing play at the moment, because Pepper's been thinking about it, the only reason they're not seeing play is because they take up 2 bench spaces. You need to have Latias and Latios in play in order to do these effects, but it prevents any player's evolution Pokemon from using Pokebodies, which are not remotely easy to stop at the moment actually, and are quite powerful, so these are noteworthy for sure. Rayquaza EX is good for coming back into the game. If you're behind on prizes, it's 1 energy snipe 50 on a Claydol, or 2 energy 70 to the active. No weakness on this thing as well, so it usually survives a hit. As a basic, that's pretty strong. There's a reason why this got hit, because everybody was using it all the time and it was really silly. Jirachi EX I don't think is very good, but has seen play in a lot of different lists, and it did see play in some Worlds caliber lists as well. So I'm going to know that anyway, even though I have never liked this card. I've wanted to like it because I did pull it in the draft part of this, but yeah, just never got into it. If the opponent has the X's in play, then it's great, but otherwise they've got to have a stage 2 in play so you can do 1 for 30 block puck powers. That's a strong attack, but not on a 90 HP 2 prize dude. This gets one shot by like so many cards now, it's not even funny. So, oh well. Then on to the trainers. Dual Ball is, I think, going away for a long time at this point. It might come back in Heart Gold, Soul Silver or something, or, you know, end of stuff, but it's not anytime soon. And Matt plays this card like religiously, so he's going to miss this one for sure. Yeah, flip 2 coins for each head, search it out for a basic. It's on an item, and oops, it's on an item instead, and I just hit my keyboard because I'm a derp. Yeah, it's on an item instead of being on a supporter, so you can play a supporter alongside this as well. I think we've just got much better options at this point. We've got Call Energy, we have Call for Family Attacks, we still have Roseanne's Research that we can use. Yeah, there's not really a reason to use this, I don't think. Surprise one though, Energy Removal 2 rotates and doesn't come back. I think I might be wrong, but this might just be the last time that we see this card. Crushing Hammer comes in the start of Gen 5, but I don't think we have an effect like this until then, which is kind of surprising, to be honest. Hold On Fossil is actually noteworthy because it lets you cheat Aerodactyl into play, which is not possible on any of the other Fossil things, and also it has Fossil in the name, so Fossil Excavator can actually search and recover this card too. It is coin flippy. You need to have an Aerodactyl either in your hand if you flip tails, or in your deck if you flip heads. You don't get to mix and match on that, but it's still a way of cheating a thing that damages the opponent when they use powers into play, so very, very strong. Master Ball, yeah, we haven't seen a lot of it, but some decks would want to use this. There's especially like Porygon 2 is a deck, Porygon Z even is a deck that could use this because it can cheat the top of the deck. And yeah, if you're putting a bunch of stuff down at the bottom of the deck with Claydol, there's more chance that you could successfully use this. It can burn a card for said Claydol as well, which is really good. Yeah, there's just a lot of neat things that it can do. Likewise, Pokénav as well. And you only see 3 cards with this one, but you can get an energy card as well, which is respectable. So in turbo lists, which admittedly are very hard to build at the moment because not a lot of decks can facilitate that sort of thing, but in turbo based lists these can actually be very strong cards. Quick Ball is usually going to be played instead of Master Ball, but you don't have to. Like, Master Ball is still a pretty successful card if you want to just have more item based draw stuff, or search stuff I should say. So yeah, Windstorm is would be pretty good at dealing with energy gain in the next era, so that's respectable in its own right as a loss. Same with the going into supporters now, same with Castaway over here. Castaway is going to get replaced by Cyrus's Conspiracy, so it's definitely not like the hugest loss ever, but searching for a supporter, a tool, and a basic energy is still pretty respectable, and yeah, will be missed. Celia's Network is a bigger loss here. Yeah, we have Bebe Search, but it's nice to have more copies of that, so searching your deck for any Pokemon card. There isn't an EX, but we're not bothering about EXs at this point, obviously, because they're not being printed. So yeah, really, really strong. Copycat goes away, which is a little surprising. I don't remember seeing this reprinted until the Heart Gold Soul Silver era at this point. So yeah, we don't get that sort of shuffle draw, but we've got other versions of it, so it's fine. Hold On Mentor, A couple of decks do play this in the 08 format. It's usually Roseanne that you would play, but some decks just really need as many basics down as possible, as consistently as possible, and you can often afford the discard with it as well. Stuff like Garchomp, which can get energy back from the discard. I played a Morphim Gyarados deck on Wednesday that lets you also get an energy back with the Burmy. So there's a few ways that you can even like take advantage of the discard. And searching for free Pokemon is pretty respectable. So yeah, I can see why it would be missed. Island Hermit, nobody ever used this because we didn't just want a draw 2 card, but if you are very price sensitive, as some decks will be, playing like a 1-1 line of stuff, if you play enough 1-1s, having something like this can actually be pretty good. Maybe in Porygon Z you could play this because you use Porygon 2 to cheat out extra supporter effects. You could maybe do it there. And yeah, the card's good at what it does. Gives you info about your prizes and whatnot. But yeah, just not enough on its own. But some decks did play it again, so it's noteworthy. Mr. Stone's project is a double energy search or a energy retrieval. We don't have energy retrieval in the format right now, so this would be worthwhile to have around. And a double energy search, yeah, Roseanne does that bit, but it's the versatility of this card. Again, some decks do like that idea, so Leafeon quite likes getting its energy back, for example, so you could use it there. Professor Elm's training method, outclassed by most of the other search cards at this point, but evolutions are kind of difficult to get out, and you really do need Claydol as like fast as possible on a lot of stuff here. So being able to search for Claydol specifically would be pretty good. So, you know, not the greatest to miss. Oak's research lets you shuffle draw 5, which we have Professor Rowan that does that thing, but Rowan is technically shuffle draw 4, you just get to keep one card out of the hand already, which may or may not be better depending on the situation. Sometimes you just need to ship your entire hand because it doesn't do anything whatsoever. So yeah, Oak's research might be missed. Scott is a supporter and stadium search card. Porygon Z will definitely miss having access to this because using Porygon 2 to search for more supporters that your other Porygons could use is extremely good, and we can't do that anymore. So rip. Also stadium search, that's not something we really have, so you know, bit of a shame. And then the heavy hitters, we're losing Steven's advice here. This is just the best draw supporter to use with Claydol because you go up to 6 cards exactly, and Stevens then lets you draw up to 6 more depending on what the opponent's setup is like. And yeah, a lot of the times the bench is going to be very full in this era, so huge loss on this one. And TV Report is a pretty big hit too. We do have Felicities, and they do kind of compete with each other because Felicity can just be a discard 1 draw 3. But the advantage of TV Reporter has always been that you draw before you discard. So you do not have to commit the card before you see what all of your options are. And that cannot be underestimated. We do have Professor Oak's Visit, which bottom decks the card instead of discarding it. Sometimes that's better, sometimes you want that card discarded. So hit and miss, but this will be missed. It's used in a lot of decks, even at the very end of the format, so very strong. And then we get to the stadium cards. Battle Frontier doesn't seem like it would be too great at the moment, but it does prevent like Dark and Metal Pokemon, as well as Colorless, from using their Pokepowers and Pokebodies. It's only on evolutions, but most of the time that's where the good stuff is, right? Like, Porygon Z will get messed up by this, Magnezone will get messed up by this, that's a promising one next format. And Dark, I'm not sure, Dark isn't usually that strong, but I'm sure there's something that it hits that would be pretty respectable, so yeah, unfortunate loss there. Crystal Beach was a big one. I think it's not going to be very good with the way the format is with all the other rotations going on, because again, we lose like all of our double rainbow based effects, so I don't think this really does a whole lot in Diamond and Pearl format. but it's exceptionally strong right now. We've had to take account of it in every deck that's playing double rainbows, etc. Because this, if you leave it unattended, this just rips your entire strategy to shreds. So yeah. Hold on Circle is a super curious one. Preventing all effects of attack, it basically blanks an attack because one person has to attack in order to bounce the stadium. It's kind of in the opponent's favor most of the time because they can just bounce it with their own stadium or a windstorm or something and then get an attack off anyway. But this can prevent the opponent from like doing anything, which is sometimes good. You probably need to play your own counter stadium to play alongside this, but I'm sure some stall-based decks would use this. Like I would be tempted to use it with the Swampert, because using its power ends the turn, or maybe Blastoise or something could use it, so that you make it so the opponent doesn't get their attack, etc. Phoebe Stadium might seem weird to put on here because we have Moonlight Stadium that gives Psychics 0 retreat, but I put it here because it also gives Darks 0 retreat, and you don't always want that. A lot of the Psychic Pokemon that you play only have like a 2 energy retreat cost anyway, and giving Dark type 0 retreat might give something that Psychic struggles with because they all resist Psychic. Yeah, it might give the opponent an advantage they wouldn't have otherwise. So Phoebe Stadium can still be good here. Likewise, Sydney Stadium seems kind of a weird one, but there are specific synergies that you can use with this, notably the Wigglytuff Darkrai deck, that you can get bonus damage on Darkrai's Sleep Hole by using Wigglytuff. So there are some specific reasons why you would want to be status immune. It's not the most important thing in the world, but sometimes it's just there and you really want it. Cessation Crystal is huge. We banned this one in Mysterious Treasures at the start of this format because honestly, this card is just super gross. It's way too easy to take advantage of here. Just if it's in the active slot, if it's attached to the active Pokemon, neither player can play the game. It's skill drain on a tool that is searchable because of Castaway. It's really, really powerful and very, very unfun to go against. So we'll see it next week for sure, unfortunately, but it will be the last time it comes in. So thank God for that. Crystal Shard is mostly noteworthy because some dragon types are actually kind of good and they are weak to colorless, so it's nice to have an option in the format if your deck is really bad against say the Garchomp matchup. It's nice to have the option to hit it for weakness. That's about it though. Doesn't really do much otherwise, but that's noteworthy enough to be a loss point. Then we have Strength Charm. Plus Power technically outdoes this, but Strength Charm is a tool and you do not have to attack the same turn that you play it down, so you can preemptively put a damage buff down, and then it only matters later on when it actually like comes into play. So, you know, Plus Power you have to just kind of burn or dump back at the bottom of the deck, whereas Strength Charm you can preserve it, and it's sometimes better, but it also isn't stackable, so it's better and worse at the same time. But it's a damage buff, it's worth noting. Boost Energy, moving on to the energy stuff here. I'm pretty sure Boost Energy doesn't come back at all at this point. It's hard to play. A lot of decks don't play like triple colorless costs and whatnot, but any deck that does really likes the idea of having this around. Even Leafeon could potentially use this as a one-off sort of attach, right? Where you just are getting a plus 30 for its Verdant Dance. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, we lose it, so whatever. Like I said, all the multi-energy stuff goes here. Double Rainbow is leaving as well. This is a permanent leave at this point. 2 Rainbow Energies on any Pokemon that isn't in EX. Unfortunately, that is every Pokemon in Diamond Pearl, so even the level X's and stuff can use this. And yeah, any 2 energy and it cuts your damage by 10, but the damage numbers are going up enough where that's usually not a problem. It enables so many dumb bullshit combos and probably will be healthier that the format loses it, to be honest. Then we have Heal Energy. Majestic Dawn did give us Recover and Restore Energy, I think it's called. Or like Health Energy and Recover Energy or something, that individually do these things, so that you heal a damage counter or you heal the special conditions. But neither of those do both, and even then this card didn't see that much play, but there were decks in like 06, 07 that played this card quite heavily, so definitely worth noting. And the final one is Scramble Energy, which, oh boy, Scramble Energy was almost a mistake, I think. Only works when you're behind on prizes, but it gives you any free energy cards that you want. And again, can't work on EXs, we don't care because EXs are no longer being printed. This is another one that, it makes like Dusknoir a 1 energy attacker, which is gross as hell. So, definitely happy to see this go as well, I think. Yeah. Overall, I know there are more cards which we could speak on here, but since most of the Pokemon attack-wise have been outclassed at this point, I don't know. Overall, I think it's interesting. We have a lot of utility stuff going away, and some of the supporter cards especially are very, very heavily played right now. We do not have a lot of trainer cards going into the start of Diamond Pearl on. I think I counted about 30 that were reasonable to even like consider. That is almost all of them in the pool. So variety might not be there, but our card quality is getting better and better as we go along. Just kind of a shame to lose things like your potential Draw 6 or your Search Any Pokemon, or, you know, your Mentor potentially as well. There's a few things in here we're going to miss. But the format must move on, and so we shall. Entering the SP format in 2009, we'll see how it goes, return of the basics, etc, etc. Let's just see how interesting the game gets. Thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.